Our gospel today comes from the Gospel of St. Mark, the 10th chapter. Just as Jesus and his disciples and a large crowd were leaving Jericho, Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, a blind beggar, was sitting by the roadside. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout out, saying, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me." Many sternly ordered him to be quiet, but he cried out even more loudly, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stood still and said, "Call him here." And they called the blind man, saying to him, "Take heart, get up, he is calling you." So throwing off his cloak, he sprang up and came to Jesus. Then Jesus said to him, "What do you want me to do for you?" The blind man said to him, "My teacher, let me see again." Jesus said to him, "Go, your faith has made you well." Immediately he regained his sight and followed him on the way. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
You may be seated now. Today within our gospel lesson, we're confronted, with a man, Bartimaeus, a blind beggar. A man who's been sitting on the roadside begging for people for change, anything that they would be willing to give to him. Bartimaeus had been there for years. Many people probably saw him at the very beginning, but eventually they just began to look past him. He became a fixture. Someone who has been there, will be there, and maybe there's nothing we can do to help. I want you to stop and consider this for a moment. How many times when you're driving down the street do you not see a person who is begging for change, for anything that you would be willing to share? Yet more often than not, when we see that person, our first instinct is to make sure our doors are locked, our windows are up, that we might be able to look down at our phone and just wait until the green light happens so that we can move on with our own life. That we're not confronted with the troubles of someone else, but that we might get on with our own life. This is an experience that probably many of us have gone through just this past week. So what can we do? How can we read this gospel and not learn from it? So today I really want us to focus on the words that are spoken by Jesus, by Bartimaeus, but also by the crowd themselves. Bartimaeus is the first one to speak. "Son of David, have mercy on me." Well, that's an odd name. I thought his name was Jesus. It is. Bartimaeus is truly calling out the title that Jesus is to the world, but especially to the Hebrew people, the Israelites. Son of David, the greatest king that they had ever known, the one who made their nation one of the greatest nations on earth, and they are longing to get back to it. And so when Bartimaeus calls out, "Son of David," he's calling, saying, "I know who you are, I know who you will be, and I recognize. I know you." But he doesn't beg for money. He doesn't beg for anything in particular except for mercy. For how long has he been afflicted? We do not know. When did he lose his sight? Has it been years? Has it been decades? Has it been his entire life that he has been suffering and the society has looked down upon him? Yet how does the society react when he does cry out to Jesus? Be quiet. Be quiet. Don't you know who this is? Don't you know how important he is? And you're crying to him? Yet Bartimaeus does not allow the society, the crowd of people that's gathered there, to hold him back, so he cries out again. Son of David, have mercy on me. It's the second time. When he cries out, Jesus does hear him. And he says, have the blind man come to me. Jesus is truly telling the entire crowd, this man is worthy. This man is someone who I care about. This is the man who I want in my presence. And Bartimaeus jumps up, leaving everything that he has behind, and comes to Jesus. Yet it is in the midst of this conversation that I really want you to pay attention to. When Jesus is confronted with Bartimaeus, does he simply say, I will give you sight? No. Jesus asks the very simple question, what is it you want me to do for you? What is it you want me to do for you? Jesus probably knows exactly what it is Bartimaeus will ask of him. But truly what Jesus is doing in all of this is giving Bartimaeus his humanity back. For so many who had been looking down upon him, wondering who he is, what value does he have for society, Jesus goes to Bartimaeus and says, I see your value, but what is it I can do for you? He restores Bartimaeus' voice in the community. So when Bartimaeus says, please restore my sight, Jesus is happy to do it. Yet it goes beyond so much more. Because after Jesus gives Bartimaeus his sight, we hear that Bartimaeus leaves and begins following on the way. Well, when we hear about that, when we see those words, it's not that he goes on his way, he goes on the way, following Jesus into the world. Now I want us to stop and ask this question again. When I started this sermon and I asked about the homeless people that you might see on your drive, that's Bartimaeus. How do we typically treat them, and how is Jesus calling us to treat them? When will we begin to realize and recognize that we're human, they're human, and the only difference is that we have this vehicle to sit in? That someone has looked upon us and says, I see your value. Now you can go to many different nations, in many different languages, and you will experience much of the same story. And even this story is almost 2,000 years old. So I guess really my question to you today is, when, oh when, will we begin to hear this gospel? When will we hear this message and not just simply say it's words on a page? But when will we actually go and make it a reality? And follow in the footsteps of Jesus in helping someone, in caring for one another, and restoring their humanity and value. Today, as we depart from worship, we're going to go out and continue God's work, our hands, to care for someone. But it doesn't need to be a special day. It doesn't need to be a day of fanfare in which someone else organizes it and now I can go and do it. No, Jesus calls us to do that every day. So today, may you hear that calling. Amen.